Well, Mike, it's a movie we've mentioned and referenced so many times over the years, but we've never done a full video on it. But now it's celebrating its 40th anniversary, beloved by generations. Everybody loves this movie, so I figured it was finally time to talk about 1985's Police Academy 2, Their First Assignment.
Am I on the wrong set?
We've mentioned Back to the Future so many times, and we've never talked about it, I think because it's one of those movies that just everybody knows.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, obviously we grew up with it, but it kind of feels like one of those movies like The Wizard of Oz, where it's one of the most famous movies ever. Everybody
There's nothing
knows
more to say about it.
Doc and Marty, the DeLorean, 1.21 gigawatts.
What the hell is a gigawatt?
It's like everything about this movie is so well known. But there's a reason for that. There's a reason it's so beloved, because it's a perfect film.
It is a perfect film. Well, okay, I'm going to say it's a 99.9% perfect. Nothing's perfect.
Nothing's perfect. That's
but
fine.
I rewatched this movie, and my opinion has changed.
What?
I've always loved this movie, obviously. I watched it millions of times as a kid. I think I saw it in the goddamn theater.
Oh my God.
That ages me. As a wee child, I remember going to the theater. I mean, I saw Gremlins in the theater. That was 84.
Oh my God.
I saw Return of the fucking Jedi in the theater.
It's possible I did too, but I don't remember that. I didn't see Back to the Future. I saw it on cable a billion times.
Yeah.
But I saw the sequels in the theater.
Sure.
We'll talk about the sequels, of course.
I don't even know if we need to.
Oh.
But yeah, I watched this movie kind of with fresh eyes, because now I have a 4K player, and I don't know if I ever watched the Blu-ray. And I'm just like blown away by the level of detail and the script and its perfection, and how every little bit pays off almost, and how much I laughed out loud at so many moments, and mainly because of performances.
Yes.
Specifically Michael J. Fox.
There's three perfect comedic performances in the movie. Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, obviously, and Crispin Glover.
Tell her that she is the most beautiful girl you have ever seen in the world. Girls like that stuff. What are you doing, George? I'm writing this down. This is good stuff. Yeah.
Don't leave out Leah Thompson. I mean,
She's very good in the movie. It's
Yeah.
obviously it's a different type of character.
Sure.
But there's something about those three specifically, their physicality.
Yeah.
Like the way Michael J. Fox moves. It's always like his head is just a little bit ahead of his body.
Oh,
with
sure.
The way he moves.
oh yeah, his when he stumbles out of the barn, he hits his head on the DeLorean door. That part wasn't scripted. It was because the mechanisms in the door weren't working right. So there's
Sure.
lots of happy accidents on this movie set. Because someone will make some sort of stupid comment about that door was actually broken, so he didn't do that on purpose.
If you don't mention every single piece of trivia, they'll be sure to say, I can't believe they didn't know, fill in the blank.
Yes, but I mean,
We're not going to talk about every single goddamn detail.
No.
It's filled.
There's too many things. But like when the DeLorean first goes through time with Einstein in the car, and Michael J. Fox's like expression of bewilderment, just a little subtle touches in his acting.
The molecular structure of both Einstein and the car are completely intact.
Where the hell are they?
And it's probably, Zemeckis directing as well, but, like just little things. I'm just watching it microscopically when he, like Biff comes to the car and he thinks it's George because he hasn't sexually assaulted his mother yet. He couldn't work. She was sexually assaulting him.
Yes, that's the big twist of the movie.
Can't believe I'm actually gonna feel up my own mother. This is the kind of thing that could screw me up permanently. Well, what if I go back to the future and I end up being gay?
And so he hasn't gotten around to that. And he's like, oh God. And then here comes Biff. And then he does a little subtle look to the left to see if McFly is on his way or will notice this because he's so wrapped up in his goal. I'm just everything he does, and then of course Christopher Lloyd, like, just so many things.
It's interesting. This is probably, because I rewatched it too, this is probably the first time I noticed a distinct difference between Christopher Lloyd's performance as old Doc Brown and young Doc Brown. He does have a little more energy as young Doc Brown. He aged it up just a tiny bit with present day 1985 Doc Brown.
Yeah,
just a tiny bit. He's a little more low key.
The old age makeup is interesting. It's very good.
They kept it subtle, which is good. It's not
effective.
too over the top.
It took.
It's like Max von Sydow in The Exorcist. Just some wrinkles around the eyes, some wrinkling on the neck.
Yeah, probably. Well, it said it took Leah Thompson 3 hours of makeup work because she was 23 to turn her into 47.
Yeah, they tried to make her look a little bit heavier. They gave her some
added some
puffy
weight,
cheeks.
yeah, because she became an alcoholic.
Yes.
And she's drinking vodka at dinner.
At her family dinner.
Yeah, and and then at the end she needed to be more in shape and thinner. So they added some fatness to her face, but you see all the wrinkles and what's his face, the principal. Skinner?
Yeah, Strickland. Skinner,
sorry, wrong show. The principal, and you see like they added that kind of wrinkly, latexy stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't have to do much work with him. With Christopher Lloyd, I was always confused, like as a kid, you're watching this on a standard definition TV, and I'm like, Doc Brown looks the same.
I was especially confused in the second movie, because they didn't want to have him in old age makeup through the whole second and third movie. So they add this bullshit thing at the beginning where he talks about he went to like a rejuvenation clinic and he peels off his old man face.
What do you think?
You look great, Doc.
But he had fake old man makeup on so he wouldn't confuse Marty. And he peels it off, and on watching it when I was a kid, I was like, he looks exactly the same. Yeah. You don't notice the wrinkles as much.
Because I don't know how old Christopher Lloyd was in the first film. 40?
Yeah, 40 something, yeah.
Probably something. And, he's got kind of some bags under his eyes. And he looks a little older, and then they had to age him 30 years, and his hair's the same. He kind of looks, but the work with, Crispin Glover and, especially Tom Wilson. Yeah. Oh, Biff. Like, amazing.
Yes.
And it's not meant to be ultra realistic. It's a fun adventure movie, and it's not meant to be. It's kind of a fairy tale.
Oh yeah, that's why I know Crispin Glover has always had a problem with the ending.
It was not a good idea for our characters to have a monetary reward, because it basically makes the moral of the film be that money equals happiness. What I was arguing for was that that the characters should be in love, and that the love should be the reward.
You have to look at it more as, because in reality, if they were rich now, when he comes back to the future, and now his family's ultra sick, they would not be in that same tiny house.
Yes.
So you do have to look at it like a fairy tale.
That's the final stamp on this is a fairy tale movie that you're not supposed to take super seriously.
Yeah.
Because the Lyon Estates area, where the neighborhood where Marty lives, is depicted as kind of being a little run down. There's spray paint on the things, and
the whole town is. That's something I noticed this time too. When they're in by the clock tower, there's all these buildings in the background that are like closed up or moved to another town.
There's porno theaters.
There's a porno theater.
American Orgy.
I never really noticed that stuff when I was a kid, but the whole town is kind of dumpy.
It's a little worn down, but it's the in-between stages between Biff 10 and 1985, and they had to make it like worn down to have the 1950s sparkle and shine.
Yeah.
So it couldn't just be nice; it had to be a little different.
They really cleaned this place up. Looks brand new.
But yeah, porno theater, adult bookstore. I think the clock tower is like a Social Security office.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
It has a different name on it. I think it's like the city hall, and then now it's like the place where you go get your welfare checks.
Okay.
So there's and it's dirty.
Yeah.
But
that is something with the movie where it gets away, like thinking about like, oh, they wouldn't live in the same house, or the details of like trying to look at realistically the details of time travel. This movie gets away with a lot by being a comedy, because that stuff doesn't really matter.
No.
It's like the early on, one of the main subplots of the movie is Marty goes back in time, current day Doc Brown gets shot and killed by Libyan terrorists. So he keeps trying to tell young Doc Brown, you're going to get shot. He's trying to warn him. And Doc Brown keeps beating into his head like we shouldn't know too much about our own future.
You must not see anybody or talk to anybody. Anything you do could have serious repercussions on future events.
They keep reiterating that. And then they spend the entire rest of the trilogy completely ignoring that. But the payoff to that whole thing in the first movie is, you know, Marty tries telling him, he tries writing him a note. Doc Brown tears up the note.
I refuse to accept the responsibility!
And then when Marty finally gets back to 1985, he gets there 10 minutes early, he goes to warn him, Doc Brown gets shot, and then when he confronts him, Doc Brown gets up, he's got the bulletproof vest, and he pulls out the note, he's taped it back together, and Marty's like, but what about all that talk about the future, not knowing your own fate? And he's like, I figured, what the hell? That's the payoff for that whole thing, because the movie's a comedy.
Not all that talk about screwing up future events.
Well, I figured. What the hell?
The issues with time travel and the contradictions and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Butterfly effect and yada, yada, yada.
It creates fun comedic moments throughout the series.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that with Back to the Future. This movie is the quintessential example of lightning and a bottle. The famous scene when Marty can't open the bottle of Pepsi.
Oh, because all the machines have the opener on the side.
He doesn't know what the hell that is.
Yeah.
You know, they've got aluminum pop cans, tabs, you know, that's out. So
that's the thing, is like the whole time travel aspect is really just a vehicle, no pun intended, to convey the idea of someone going back in time and seeing what their parents were like when they were his age.
Well, that was the genesis.
It's a comedic vehicle.
Very funny. You guys are being real mature.
Maybe we were adopted.
Yeah, that was the genesis of the idea. Was Bob Gale was looking through his father's yearbook, and he saw a picture of his dad as a high schooler and was like, I wonder if I would have been friends with my dad. There.
And I find out that my father had been the president of his graduating class. And I'm looking at him and thinking about the president of my graduating class, and I thought, would I have been friends with him if I had gone to high school, or would I have just hated his guts?
Went through 44 drafts. That's the thing, Jay. After I watched the movie, I was going to watch the deleted scenes. Mm-hmm. I chose not to.
Okay.
And I read a little IMDb trivia, and I was like, nah.
Pardon me, could you pinch me?
I beg your pardon?
Pinch me.
Shame on you.
I have my own thoughts on the movie, and this is why I decided to not watch deleted scenes. Okay. It's the same reason why I won't watch Blues Brothers 2000. Because the movie's perfect. I don't want anything ruined. I don't want to see deleted scenes. I know Eric Stoltz was the original Marty, and everyone hated him because he was an annoying method actor who beat up Biff.
What happened was the director fired me.
Why?
He didn't like my work.
Yes.
And was a little too aggressive, and then everyone was happy when he got fired because they all hated him.
Well, everyone was happy except for Melora Hardin, a.k.a. Jan from The Office, because she was Marty's original girlfriend, but then when they brought in Michael J. Fox, she was way too tall, and they were like, this looks weird.
Yes.
So she wasn't happy, I'm sure.
Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale were actually fine with me being taller. It was female executives at the time that felt it emasculated their lead character.
Doc Brown was also too tall. Christopher Lloyd.
Oh yeah, he kind of hunches over.
He has to hunch
bit.
over,
Yeah.
and then they filmed them sort of out of sync a little to force perspective.
Force perspective, like the Lord of the Rings.
Like Gandalf and Frodo. Okay, so the head of Universal Pictures did not like the title Back to the Future, insisting that no one would see a movie with future in the title. These are studio notes,
Of
right?
course.
In a memo, he said that the title should be changed to Spaceman from Pluto, tying in with Marty as the alien.
I am an extraterrestrial from the planet Vulcan.
Also suggested replacing lines like I'm Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan with I am a spaceman from Pluto. Sheinberg was pressured to change his mind by a response memo from Spielberg, I think, which thanked him for sending the wonderful joke memo, and everyone got a kick out of it. But Sheinberg also was responsible for Doc Brown being called Doc Brown, because he was supposed to be called Professor Brown, and he was supposed to have a pet monkey.
Oh, I have heard that, yeah.
And he said, why don't we change it to a dog named Einstein? So some studio notes are good, some are bad, but I don't ever want to think of this movie as Marty McFly, the spaceman from Pluto, or having a monkey in it. And
or Eric Stoltz being in it. It's one of those movies where it's like all the right pieces came together.
Yes. It's a Star Wars. It's one of the perfect movies where everything just happened exactly as the cast.
Yes.
You mean you're gonna go touch her on her? No, George.
No, perfect. Like I said, perfect comedic performance. Crispin Glover, I think, he's the real protagonist of the movie. That's kind of the interesting thing, is like Marty doesn't have much of an arc, and they knew that. That's why in the sequels they gave him the gimmick of he gets upset when people call him chicken.
Nobody calls me chicken.
But he doesn't. He's really kind of the facilitator for the other characters in the first movie, because it is about George McFly learning to take control and stand up for himself. And there's even you say you won't watch the deleted scenes, but there's interesting stuff in the deleted scenes where there's so much like perfect setup and payoff in this movie, but there's stuff that's in the final movie that is actually a payoff for things that are from the deleted scenes.
Okay.
Specifically, Marty gets home. Biff has wrecked the car. There's that whole scene. And then after Biff leaves, Marty's like, you got to learn to say no to these people. You got to stand up for yourself, Dad.
N-O. No.
Hey, McFly. My kid here's selling peanut brittle for a team. It's $5 a box. I put you down for a case, okay?
We're selling peanut brittle. I told my kid I'd put you down for 20 boxes. And he's like, okay.
Hence the peanut brittle.
Hence the peanut brittle in the next scene. As a kid, I was just like, oh, it's just a weird detail that he likes peanut brittle. But no, he bought 20 cases because the guy leaves and he's like, see, honey, I told you we'd only have to go to one house. So little details like that.
That's a great scene, yeah. And I could see them cutting it for time's sake, because
it's not completely necessary, but it is like just another layer of hammering home how much of a weenie George McFly is.
I mean, the scene where Biff is yelling at him and all that, it kind of sells that. He won't stand up to Biff, and then that's redundant.
What are you looking at, butthead?
Well, speaking of Biff, he's the all-purpose villain.
Yes.
Because he's not only mean to George McFly, but he's also awful to Lorraine and has eyes on her. Mm. If it wasn't for the scene in the cafeteria where he attempts to get handsy with her, remember, she's like sitting on his lap and he's like grabbing her and you're gonna go to the dance with me. He's, get your meat hooks off me. And then Marty stands up. But so the ending, though, of course, when Biff pulls Marty out of the car and sees Lorraine and, her, looky what we have here. Mm-hmm. It's not just a random opportunistic moment for S.A.
Right.
It's been set up that he has eyes on Lorraine. And I think that was the only scene with that. It's mostly him being a bully.
Yeah.
So why don't you make like a tree and get out of here?
I mean, there's lots of standard setups that pay off later, simple ones. And I don't even know if these are just called nice touches or setups and payoffs. The DeLorean travels through time. Obviously, the time travel jump is powered by plutonium. Mm-hmm. But the car just runs on gas. Yeah. It's just a regular car. But there's something wrong with the starter, and that's why Marty can't get it out of he has to hide it behind the sign. And eventually, I guess they fix that, but it fails again at the worst moment later on in the film. And again, that's when the clock rings and he can't start the car. Yeah. And just a serendipitous head smash against the steering wheel starts it up. Lucky protagonist. Mm-hmm. But you could have had the DeLorean just be fine, and then at the end, for no reason at all, it just doesn't want to start.
Yeah. Just a little thing you add in to throw in some tension at the end, but...
Right.
Yeah.
But it's set up. Kids learn to watch TV with dinner from their grandparents.
Yes. Now we can watch Jackie Gleason while we eat.
Because you see them watching the very same program, which I didn't notice in a standard definition TV. I thought they were just watching something black and white. And I couldn't see what he was watching, but it's the episode where Ralph dresses up as a man from space.
Mm-hmm.
And that, of course, plays as a rerun.
What do you mean you've seen this? It's brand new.
And that, of course, gives Marty the idea to dress up as a man from space.
Yes.
They don't make movies like this anymore.
No. Well, another thing in that scene where he's dressed up as Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan, he's got a hairdryer. And the hairdryer is another thing from a deleted scene that was set up.
A hairdryer? Don't they have towels in the future?
Dad! Silence! My heat ray will vaporize you if you do not obey me.
See, people think that Marty did that because the camera pans down to the pulp comic that George McFly is reading, and it looks identical to what Marty's doing, but it's just a coincidence. Marty really learned that from Ralph Cramden. They never stop, and he goes, remember that episode of The Honeymooners?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they don't overdo it. It's just there.
It's just in his brain, and he just thinks of it.
Well, even things that are payoffs, not necessarily story related, but just good comedic payoffs. Like they're establishing at the beginning that the family's, not in good shape. The mom's an alcoholic. Yeah. They live in this dumpy house, all that. Her brother is in jail, Uncle Jailbird Joey.
So you're my Uncle Joey. Better get used to these bars, kid.
What?
I don't know if I'm stupid, but I never noticed in the 1950s dinner scene, Jailbird Joey has a black and white striped pajamas on.
Oh my God, I just rewatched it and I didn't notice that.
In his...
The joke that I always notice is obviously that he's in the playpen.
Yeah.
Marty's like, get used to these bars. I didn't notice that either.
But he has on a prison uniform.
Oh, that's great. So then, yeah.
When are we going to see his backstory?
That'll be in the prequel that they greenlight immediately after Robert Zemeckis dies. They'll do the Back to the Future cinematic universe.
Can we just mention that Zemeckis and Gale have a contract that says they own all control over any sequels or remakes?
Yes, and they've said that they'll never be made until they're dead.
Is there gonna be a Back to the Future Part 4?
Well, it doesn't look likely, partner.
Yes, so we need to keep these men alive through whatever scientific means we can for as long as humanly possible.
Have them go to the rejuvenation clinic that Doc Brown goes to.
Yes.
Take off 30 years of their life.
We have to invent time travel to send them to the future to save them.
Yes.
What if they... I got to get a lawyer in on this, but what if Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, after they pass, are cryogenically frozen?
Oh.
Before, like moments before they pass.
So they're not technically dead.
Yes. Like, you have... I mean, I don't wish this on either of these two men. They're brilliant. You have stage 4 horrifying cancer. You have about a month to live. Put me in the freezer. Mm-hmm. Legally, I'm still alive. I will guard that cryogenic vault with a machine gun on loan from the Libyans to make sure they never unthaw the cryogenic tanks.
No, the heads of Universal will be sneaking in there at night to try and unplug the cord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need a Kickstarter.
Okay. Cryogenically freeze Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis.
Yes, moments before their deaths.
Can we just go ahead and freeze them now so Robert Zemeckis stops making new movies?
I don't care what he makes now. I don't give a fuck. Whatever will
Clearly,
stop.
you haven't seen Here. That will not take away from anything that Robert Zemeckis has contributed to, not just movies, but the technology involved in making movies. Especially when you get to the sequels to the Back to the Future. That's where he really was pushing the technology and pushing effects and what you could do.
I didn't like that Michael J. Fox was like playing his own sister in drag, and I like the other actors playing the brother and sister. Mm. I just didn't. I don't know.
That's the thing is
it's
like
going overboard.
Yeah, the first one is such a perfect movie. I don't even really think of it as like an effects movie. There's a few effects shots, but they're more utilitarian. Yeah. The DeLorean flying at the end, which is kind of a joke anyway. But the sequels are more interested in being like clever technically than telling a great story. They're good movies. I like both of them, but this first, like you said, Lightning in a Bottle. The first one is just so perfect.
Yeah. The second one, well, just briefly, because I don't want to get into those. I really like the second one. It's like I don't want to call it the Empire Strikes Back of the trilogy, but the fact that it took a dramatically different approach, which is
while also going back into the first movie, which is so strange.
It played like time travel in the first one. The plot was personal, emotional, saving his own life, basically Marty, because he would be erased from existence, repairing his family, the characters growing. There was a lot of, like, that was the story. And the second one, it was trying to stop Biff Tannen from becoming a monster. It was also, his family was ruined because he murdered George McFly, and then Lorraine was a drunken housewife with breast implants, and their whole family was ruined again. So it was about that too, but it was also, the plot was to try to stop him from getting a sports almanac so he didn't bet on future sports and become a billionaire and eventually a corrupt monster that took over Hill Valley.
It feels more like it would be the plot of an episode of a TV show. The
Yeah.
Back to the Future TV show. I guess there was technically a cartoon, but
it was great. I mean, and then, you know, the history repeating itself.
Something very familiar about all this.
Like all those moments.
Yeah.
You could get away with that in a sequel, you know, because the scene where Biff is in 1985 is demanding George McFly give him his work assignment.
Do you realize what would happen if I handed my reports in your handwriting? I'll get fired.
The exact same scene happens in the diner with the schoolwork.
Do you realize what would happen if I hand in my homework in your handwriting? I'll get kicked out of school.
And so, yeah, future 1980s retro cafe. There's so many brilliant things. Pepsi Perfect.
Pepsi Perfect. We have, I don't know if it's screen used. It might be in the movie somewhere. It's not the hero one that comes out.
It's not the hero one.
We tried to screen
examined.
match it.
Yeah.
And I did notice the scene, the dinner table scene where Michael J. Fox is his own daughter. She has one in that scene, but it has a lid that opens up with a straw that goes in. So this one doesn't have that. This is more of a generic. It's probably in the background.
They might have had some at tables of some of the other things.
I looked around because I rewatched all three of them. It's not. It's only in that scene with the one that comes up out of the table.
Yeah, I mean, it had Pepsi in it.
Yeah.
That either evaporated over time or was drained.
Possibly it was in the background of a shot that wasn't used.
You know, the
Who
thing
knows?
is, though, it's when they get that extreme close-up of the Pepsi bottle coming out of the tube, the pneumatic tube, they probably did 10 takes of that. And, you know, you don't want to have one and then it gets scratched coming up and then you go, you have 10 of them in the back. So production made is different than screen used.
Yes.
These are production made. This is Biff Tannen's Biff Co. Cocktail napkin. He had stacks of money in his safe. He's got his face on the $20 bill.
Which you don't really see in the movie, do you? I don't
When
think
he
you ever...
opens his safe, you see the money, I think.
But there's no close-ups of
There's
this.
no close-ups.
Yeah.
No. They're just production-made things. And then this is a production-made but never used Hill Valley police sticker. So they stuck this, I think, on the tanks that are going through future 1985. But this one was never removed or peeled off its thing. So these are kind of these are not great. This is our early prop collecting days. This is a good one.
Yeah. We only spent $25,000 on the napkin.
What the hell do you care? We can afford it.
All right, give me a Pepsi free.
You want a Pepsi, pal? You're gonna pay for it.
Speaking of Pepsi, a movie sponsored by Pepsi.
There's so much Pepsi.
And Burger King.
Is this one of the first big product placement movies?
I don't know. That's a good question.
It's a big one, though.
It's very subtle.
There's a lot of Pepsi.
Yeah, it's not as bad as the ending of Double Team with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dennis Rodman.
Or the end of Madam Web. Doesn't the villain in that get killed by a giant Coca-Cola sign?
Yeah.
I did read that Burger King, it wasn't an actual product placement. Burger King didn't pay to be in the movie. They gave them permission to shoot in that lot next to them under the agreement that they feature Burger King in the movie. So not like a financial typical product placement.
Yes.
But it's there. Burger King is right there.
Which is really interesting to me because that Burger King is still there. It's on, I think, Victory Boulevard in Burbank.
Okay.
Obviously, the facade of it has been remodeled to a modern Burger King, but and then there's like a big warehouse building behind it, and then the facade of it's like a movie set facade of Doc Brown's garage is built in that parking lot, and they just picked it because they had some room to put it there. And Marty comes out on a skateboard. He starts going down the street, and then hard cut to the back lot, which to us is jarring. Whenever they cut from the real streets to the back lot, it's just like,
it's very noticeably a back lot. But I don't think I was thinking of that as a kid. Most people probably
no. Most people don't notice. Most people have no idea.
Yeah, it is one of the. I mean, that is one of the most famous kind of sets or back lots in movie history.
Yeah,
they were using that all the way back in like the 50s. But once you reach a movie like Back to the Future, once it's used in that, you just can't use it anymore. It's too recognizable.
Yeah, I've been there.
Oh, sure, I've been there too.
But the clock tower is now much different looking. The facade is different.
Oh, sure. I'm sure they've used it in other things, but at this point you have to change it so much to make it not recognizable as the Back to the Future town square.
But I like the fact that the garage is there just in a Burger King parking lot. That's all that's left of Doc Brown's mansion is just that garage. And then, and so the house doesn't exist, but he just uses the garage. He still owns it, I guess, even though it's the Burger King parking lot, to do his experiments. And then when you go back to 1955, he goes up to the estate, and that's this grand entrance. There's the garage, and then they pan up, and up on the hill is the house, which is, I think, a famous landmark house. And then it's just like how much time has changed to where that house is gone, and now that just quiet street is just now this busy boulevard with Burger Kings and Ross Dress for Less, and, you know, like, so that's a fun little change through time.
It's interesting because there's the diner in the 50s, in the 80s, in 1985. It's like a fitness place, but then in the future, it's the Cafe 80s. So the only time in any of these movies where it's not a diner is in the present day 1985 stuff.
In exactly 2 minutes, you go around the corner into the Cafe 80s. It's one of those nostalgia places, but not done very well.
That is, I think, I don't know if it was an intentional thing, but one of the smartest things that the movie did, and I think one of the reasons it's endured so much, is that there's a lot of movies that if there's time travel or just take place over different periods of time, when they get to the modern day, when the movie was shot modern day, it'll say something like present day on the screen, something like that. This movie hammers in 1985 so much that you can watch it now and it feels like a period piece.
1985.
Who's president of the United States in 1985?
It feels like it's so specifically 1985 and not just like present day, where now you're like, now the movie's dated. And in the way it was shot, like it feels like a movie not made in the 80s. There's a line in Donnie Darko where he says that.
You know, I love that movie, the way they shot it. It's so, like, futuristic, you know?
And it has that thing where it's like, now it looks like something you could have made in the 90s or 2000s as a period piece that takes place in 1985.
Yeah, it holds up remarkably.
Hey, puto! There she is, man. There's a bitch.
This is why I don't want to know anything. In the original script, Marty's playing rock and roll at the dance caused a riot. Now, these are from IMDb notes, so maybe someone made this up. There's 44 drafts of the script, so anything's possible. But
I know originally there wasn't a DeLorean.
The very first idea of the time machine was that it was a chamber of some sort. Yeah, I guess we had it built into an old refrigerator.
So Marty's playing rock and roll at the dance caused a riot, which had to be broken up by police. See, this doesn't make sense. This, combined with Marty accidentally tipping Doc off to the, quote, secret ingredient that made the time machine work, Coca-Cola. So I don't want to know any of this shit.
That is something, speaking of, like, there never being sequels, because I just rewatched all three of them. And obviously the ending of the first one, the Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale have said, like, if we knew we were going to make a sequel, we wouldn't have ended it that way.
It's your kids, Marty. Something has got to be done about your kids.
it was just kind of a joke ending.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, we gotta go save your kids. Like, it's so goofy. And then the car flies away.
The ending reads, if you don't, because most first films don't end with sequel bait.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if it's going to be successful or not.
Especially at that time.
Yeah. And so it comes off to me as just, oh no, it's happening again.
Here we go again.
We just fixed the problem, and now Doc, he runs out. He's got the plastic tie on and the stupid sunglasses, and the DeLorean flying and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it comes off as like a joke, comical ending.
But there is something satisfying in watching all three of these, where you have that ending, which does turn out to be a sequel tease. They plan it, but they made sequels. And then you get to the end of the third movie and it says, the end. And there's something very satisfying about that. And knowing that to this day, that is still the end. It is distracting. I know why they did it when it was in theaters, but the end of part 2 has the to be continued, and then there's a little highlight reel of what happens in part 3.
Yeah.
And then it says coming summer 1990, and now that's just like in the movie forever.
Oh.
So you could have just got rid of that. I don't like when you revise movies after the fact, but you could snip that out. It's fine.
Well, I wanted to ask you this: why did Jennifer get replaced?
How about a ride, mister? How about a ride, mister?
In the first movie, Jennifer was Claudia Wells. And when they went to do the sequels, she wasn't acting anymore.
Okay.
She said something like her mom was sick and she was taking care of her mom, so she kind of left Hollywood.
Okay.
So they recast her with Elizabeth Shue. Normally I would say that's an upgrade. I actually like Elizabeth Shue. She's great in like Leaving Las Vegas. Not so good in Back to the Future 2.
You mean we're in the future? The future, Marty? What do you mean? How can we be in the future?
But her whole character in those movies is treated as a joke.
Yeah.
They're constantly like making her get knocked out or passed out and throwing her in alleys and just like leaving her on the porch.
But yeah, I always noticed that the two endings, the ending of part 1 and then the reshot opening of part 2.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88. Hey, Doc, you better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
They also had a little bit in the second one when Marty's like, what happens to us in the future? What, do we become assholes or something? And the second one, they had a little moment where Doc Brown thinks about it.
One kind of interesting thing to mention, maybe I'll send this to you. I listened to a podcast. It was a psychology podcast, but they were going through Back to the Future and the psychology of it.
Okay.
And, obviously the Oedipal nature of the mother-son. And
But when I kiss you, it's like I'm kissing my brother.
the one thing that I never really thought about in Back to the Future that they brought up was how important the car, the concept of the automobile is. It's almost like a motif that's woven into the film throughout, and the importance of it, because it's California. California is, or was, the car state. It was freedom on the road, the cars, the drop tops, the convertibles, the culture, surf culture, car culture. Because California, it's beautiful year round. Your cars don't rust with road salt, and
you don't have 9 months of winter like here in Wisconsin.
You have the DeLorean. Obviously, the time travel vehicle is a car. Marty, he's upset because his car got smashed up by Biff Tannen. He lusts for his girlfriend and apparently other women too, because he has a wandering eye.
Yes, he does.
But also he wants that 4x4.
Yeah.
Like it's like a...
And he gets hit by a car.
Stella! Another one of these damn kids jumped in front of my car!
George McFly and Lorraine meet because Grandpa hit him with the car. And so that's a plot point. The car culture of, they don't have a drive-in in this, but they were popular in the 50s. The makeouts, the parking, the teenage culture of mating takes place in cars. It's just basically everywhere in the film.
Yeah.
Whether or not that was intended in the script or if it was just like woven into the culture.
How about a ride, mister?
Sadly, though, I think if they did a reboot, they would make the DeLorean a Cybertruck.
Yeah.
You built a time machine out of a Cybertruck?
Cybertruck looks so lame in comparison to the DeLorean.
I know, but it does. It is that kind of
That is the modern
car.
equivalent, though. Yeah.
Like a, I had to reinforce the panels so they didn't fly off.
Oh my fucking god.
During the time travel process, because they're held on by glue.
I was driving back to my garage. People kept trying to blow the thing up. Marty!
We're gonna take a little break, but we'll be back in a while, so don't nobody go nowhere.
So the arrival of Marty at Doc's house. Marty gets his address from the phone book. He asks Lorraine's parents where the address is. Next scene, he goes there. Knocks on Doc's door. Closes the door. Marty convinces Doc that he invented time travel. Doc is then shown the time machine and the flux capacitor. The problem of the power that is needed to operate the non-functional DeLorean to achieve time travel is also established, the 1.21 gigawatts.
1.21 gigawatts!
The time paradox and the stakes of Lorraine and George meeting are also established with the photo.
Yeah, the thrust of the story.
Yeah, 8 minutes. That's all it takes to do all that.
Oh, sure.
8 minutes.
Sure, yeah.
But my point is, 8 minutes, that's some big conversations.
Yes.
That happen in 8 minutes. A lot of plot is revealed. That is a 68-minute long episode of the Back to the Future Prestige TV series.
Yeah.
That is 12 episodes long.
While still incorporating humor.
1.21 gigawatts!
Again, going back, I mean, that's a big part of the reason you can get a lot of this exposition out of the way is the perfect comedic performances.
Oh, yeah.
Christopher Lloyd, I mean, anytime he's rambling.
Next Saturday night, we're sending you back to the future.
Another one of these damn kids got in front of my car. It's also a brilliant line.
Yeah. This isn't the first time this has happened.
How many times has he hit kids with his car? Drinking and driving on the way home from work. Marty, the plot is if you don't know the plot of Back to the Future, Marty has messed up the initial meeting of his parents.
That was so stupid. Grandpa hit him with the car. It was meant to be.
Which is sort of slight inconsistent. Lorraine Bates falls in love with George McFly because her father hit him with the car. The exact same thing happens with Marty. They take him into the house, and as Doc Brown described it, it's the Florence Nightingale effect. She falls in love with her patient. Mm-hmm. So she takes pity on him, and kind of, she says he was like a little lost puppy. And that's how she falls in love with George McFly.
Yes.
Lorraine also has the ability to fall in love with someone because, as she states, I think a man should be strong and protect her. Mm-hmm. They're both very different ways.
But they are both established in the movie.
In the original timeline, she falls in love with George because he's a puppy dog, which leads to a life of alcoholism and misery and patheticness.
An endless peanut brittle.
She, and Marty changes history for the better because she learns after Marty beats up Biff and runs his car into a pile of manure that she is more attracted to a man that is a strong alpha male, and which George McFly is not.
Yes.
Therein the problem lies. And then in the end, it's kind of changed to the way that their love is solidified is that they have to kiss on the dance floor.
See, that's where they kiss for the first time on the dance floor. And if there's no music, they can't dance. If they can't dance, they can't kiss. If they can't kiss, they can't fall in love, and I'm history.
So when George rescues Lorraine from Biff's SA in the car,
yes,
and knocks him out. It's a beautiful moment. It's amazing. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not quite solidified until the kiss happens.
Yeah.
Which,
Well, then
which is like 2 endings?
Kind of, yeah. I think they just wanted to add an extra moment of tension because Marty's playing guitar and he still starts to disappear. But then we have another guy try to steal Lorraine.
Exactly.
So that's what's further establishing his him being more assertive as a character.
Because after he punches Biff out, all those other characters are like, was that George McFly?
Yeah.
You know? So
now everybody has a different perspective on it.
And then once all those people have this new perspective on George McFly, from this obscure weirdo to a heroic guy who punched out Biff Tannen, that gives him the confidence and that changes the course of his life. But then it gets changed even further when the redheaded guy, hey, I'm cutting in. The villain from Christmas Story shows up.
Scott Farkus?
Scott Farkus shows up. Hey, it's around the same time, right? It's in the 50s.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That could be Scott Farkus.
It's Scott Farkus a couple years later.
This is our own fan fiction here. Scott Farkus went to Hill Valley High School.
Sure.
And then he goes, ugh. Then the moment happens with the kiss.
Yeah.
If I were to say 99.9, this is the 0.1 where two solid endings happen. But then I noticed this, which is also amazing. Marty's like, okay, I'm done. I'm no longer disappearing. I should go. I have to get in a DeLorean and drive down the street to catch a bolt of lightning.
Yes.
Oh, come on. One more song.
All right, this is an oldie, but it's an oldie where I come from.
Marty indulges in the rock and roll song, right?
Because he's rejected at the beginning.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.
By Huey Lewis.
Yes, yes. Which there's a wonderful scene earlier when George McFly says, no one understands my work and no one appreciates it. He's like, I understand.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I could take that kind of a rejection.
What if they say, get out of here, kid, you got no future? I mean, I just don't think I could take that kind of rejection.
They're very different characters, but they're still father and son.
Yes. And so Marty indulges in a fun scene where he plays Johnny Be Good.
That's definitely him singing.
And okay, 99.8. That's the big one for me.
Yeah.
Just have Michael J. Fox sing the fucking song.
Or get somebody else that at least sounds somewhat like him. That guy sounds so different.
We are led to believe that Marty is the lead singer in a band, right?
Oh, the Pinheads.
The Pinheads. They never get to singing, I guess. They're just jamming out when Huey Lewis tells them you're too damn loud.
Mm-hmm.
We never get to see Marty sing. We're assuming he can sing if he's the lead of a band. But he's a high school band, so his singing could be bad.
Sure.
And I'm sure Michael J. Fox could probably sing okay, enough to make it passable.
Yeah.
And it just takes me out of the movie.
Fun scene, of course, but the vocals being so different is distracting.
But the interesting point of that scene, I always thought it was just indulgent. It was just a fun, long scene where he starts shredding on the guitar and he knocks over the amplifier and he embarrasses himself.
He pushes it too far.
He takes it too far.
Everyone's into it until he starts getting into the 80s thrash.
and then it's like dead silence and everyone's staring at him. You may not like that, but your kids are going to love it. Joke.
Yes.
What's the purpose of it?
Well, it shows that he has the confidence to play on stage and not worry about rejection, which is what he's talking about earlier.
Sure. But what is a secondary purpose of it? Lorraine no longer finds him attractive.
Lorraine.
Marty, that was very interesting music.
And then he's sweaty, he looks tired, and she's just like...
I never really thought about that, but that's true.
I just noticed it this time. And I'm like, they're like, we need to solidify that she isn't still sort of like gonna think about Marty, like as she marries George, and where's that Marty? I'm still in love with him. Nope, not anymore. We've put that line of that demarcation line is right there. He made a complete fool of himself, and he's a sweaty, embarrassing bastard. And she's just like, no.
I hope you don't mind, but George asked if he could take me home.
Great, good, Lorraine.
I mean, well, okay, but I don't want to soil this movie with filth. But it is
Look,
weird.
the movie's about a mom trying to fuck her son. It's already there.
Well, what if I go back to the future and I end up being gay?
And there's a weird thing where, you know, an adult man is hanging out with a teenage boy, and then when Marty says, "I got a life," back in 1985, I got a girl, Doc.
Oh yeah.
I got a girl.
Is she pretty?
I'll take that over. My wife left me.
Yeah.
My wife left. You know, no, don't do that.
That's something they don't bother going into at all. Is like like how Doc and Marty became friends. You don't need it. They just are. It's fine.
It was the 80s.
Yeah.
You show up. Doc and Marty are friends because Marty built him a comically large speaker.
Don't use the speaker today, Marty. The power's all messed up.
Which is great. We'll start at the very beginning of the movie. There's no music. You just hear those clocks, and we're panning across all the clocks.
One-take shot, yeah.
And it's all, obviously it's about time. And so it's very quiet. There's not a lot of music. It doesn't start with the Huey Lewis song.
His little Rube Goldberg machine of feeding the dog. It's great.
And the news on the TV is establishing the plutonium, right?
Plutonium theft, yes,
Yeah,
from the Libyans.
It's all there, just in this one nice opening shot.
And the newspaper article about his mansion burning down.
But then, when Marty's leaving, the Huey Lewis song kicks in. We just get a nice shot with the box of plutonium is like under his bed. It's in the foreground.
And the ending is just a masterclass in tension and editing and suspense and completing emotional arcs and the story. Like, I think of movies now where the last 40 minutes is concluding the plot, but it's just tons of just crap.
Right. No.
And this is just like, it's just tight and efficient and perfect.
Well, what I realized in rewatching all three of the movies are about problem solving. A problem that the characters themselves have created, but it's like a problem arises, here's how we need to conclude that, and then they try to get there, and there's just obstacles along the way that keep making it more complicated.
That's called a plot.
That's called a plot.
Yeah.
But it's all tied into that. It doesn't, there's no like excessive, tangents. Here's our problem, here's our solution. Oh, there's stuff that is getting in the way of that solution. It all leads to that, and there's no like...
Marty's car won't start.
Yeah, there's no pointless like side tangents that get in the way of it.
And the visual metaphor of the time travel scientist hanging off a giant clock.
Sure.
They could have been a power plant, something, I don't know, something stupid.
I want to say the original ending was different. It wasn't the clock tower. Maybe it was a power plant. It was some other location that wasn't established in the rest of the movie that they had to go to whatever. But then, that all got cut. But simplifying it to where it's the clock tower. It's all about time.
It's hanging
out
off the
there.
hands of a clock.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just perfect. That's why I don't want to know anything. I don't want to know anything about how...
Just let the movie exist as a perfect thing.
Just exists.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to watch deleted scenes or outtakes or anyone's commentary track. Just the movie.
Well, obviously it's a movie I saw a billion times growing up. When we talked about doing this, I was like, I don't even need to rewatch it. I've seen it so many times. So I put it on just kind of to have it on in the background and ended up just watching the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then watching the second one and the third one. It's like, they're all just so perfectly paced. They're all like 2 hours. They're not even like 90 minutes, but they're still perfectly paced. They don't overstay their welcomes. Everything is like charming and perfect, especially in that first movie.
But would it, you know, had they not used Michael J. Fox, had there been a split in the timeline, would we be saying, I can't imagine anyone but so-and-so playing Marty McFly? I don't know. We'll never know, but we have what we have. It's a fantastic movie that does not age.
Oh, no.